Does anybody else feel like the Drifter's running a taken prostitution ring out of the back of his little hangout in the tower? Or am I alone on this one? He's like, all right, we got some taken booty on the field. Yeah, so that has nothing to do with this video. I was just curious if anyone else thought that as well. Hello, my fellow weirdos. How are you today? Did you have a good Halloween? Great, love to hear it. I usually eat way too much candy and end up a borderline diabetic every year, and for some reason, I never learned my lesson. It's gonna catch up with me one day. I can guarantee that. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. So yeah, at the beginning of last season, I made a build called the One Titan Army, and to this day, it's still one of my favorite builds. It's gone through some changes since then because of stasis tuning and artifact mods going away, but the foundation is still there. I've been working on a remake for quite some time, but couldn't decide if I should leave it in the past or not, until someone that goes by the name PK, and let me know if I said your name right, asked me to make an updated version for this season. So, here we are. I sat down at the old drawing board and came up with the One Titan Army 2.0, Champion Edition. And before you ask, yes, it's Grandmaster ready. I actually had to do a bunch of bounty grinding so I'd be at level just to test it out, and everyone knows how much I love bounties. Don't get me started on that. This was mainly focused around champions and endgame content, but I will be naming 2 exotics in this video, one for Grandmasters and the other for lower level activities for a little extra spice. I do have to apologize in advance though. I know I probably sound nasally. My allergies are once again kicking the crap out of me. So, let's get into it. First thing we need to talk about is the subclass. To keep the One Titan Army tradition alive, we're going with that chonky boy stasis behemoth. You already know what this thing's all about. The barricade and jump are your preference, but for the grenade, we're going with Glacier. In higher difficulty content, this grenade works wonders when trying to lock down an area or protect yourself in a pinch, kinda like a barricade. And we need the crystals. For the aspects, we're using Tectonic Harvest and Diamond Lance. We need Tectonic Harvest for this build because it creates stasis shards anytime you shatter a crystal, and this is very important. Plus it gives you melee energy every time you pick up one of those shards. And for the Diamond Lance, it does serve a higher purpose, which I will get into shortly, but come on, we all know this thing's just fun as hell to use. Moving over to the fragments. First up is Whisper of Shards. This one boosts your grenade recharge rate by 250% for 5 seconds for every crystal shattered, and it goes up to 10 seconds. It also refreshes the timer anytime you shatter more crystals. The next one is Whisper of Conduction. It makes the little stasis shards within 15 meters track to your location, which comes in very handy when you can't just run out and grab them. You know, like in a Grandmaster. And the last fragment is Whisper of Bonds. This one grants super energy when defeating frozen targets, and I'm sure you already know by now, this fragment is absolutely busted when paired with Ager's Scepter. If not, hey, it's busted with Ager's Scepter and gives a lot of super energy fast, and circumvents the super drain. Okay, subclass complete. Let's talk weapons. Remember how I just said Whisper of Bonds was busted with Ager's Scepter? Well, would you look at that? The first weapon on this list is Ager's Scepter. I chose this one because the weapon and catalyst are easily accessible, and with the catalyst, you do 80% more damage. I mean, this gun is just nuts. It even creates little spears from the aspect Diamond Lance. And speaking of nuts, you can literally blow your whole super load in one clip, which is another reason to use Whisper of Bonds. Plus it flows so well with the stasis subclass mods and exotics we'll be using for this build. But more importantly, it's just because I wanted to make a nut joke. For the energy and heavy, this is completely up to you. I made sure there was enough room to equip any champion mod and particle deconstruction, which is why I personally went with either a bow or auto rifle in the energy slot, depending on the type of champion, and linear fusion rifles in the heavy slot for the unstoppables and DPS. Okay, you ready to go over these exotics and mods? I thought so. We're gonna start off with the helmet. As you can see, we're using the Precious Scars, which is seriously underrated. When this thing first dropped, it was doo-doo. I don't know if it was bugged or just trash, but either way, it's now one of those slept-on exotics. The exotic perk is Kintsugi. Final blows from a weapon matching your subclass element creates a 60 HP burst of healing in a 15-meter radius around you, which in our case is the Ager Scepter. You also gain a 100 HP overshield for 10 seconds when reviving a teammate or being revived. This is the exotic I would use in higher difficulty content like GMs or Master Nightfalls because of how much it heals you and helps your team out. And nothing screams one Titan army more than carrying your team, like always. The minor mods for the helmet are Ashes to Assets, which is a solar mod, and the artifact version of Hands On, because you could never have enough super energy. I mean, never. And for the major, I went with Font of Might for that extra 25% weapon damage with Ager Scepter anytime you pick up a well matching your subclass. For the arms, I used the stasis mod Elemental Shards. I highly recommend either this one or Elemental Charge in this spot. Elemental Shards turns your stasis shards into stasis elemental wells, and this mod is a complete game changer when you pair it with Tectonic Harvest. All those little stasis shards you make from shattering crystals now count as elemental wells and stasis shards. An Elemental Charge makes you charge with light anytime you pick up an elemental well. If the well matches your subclass, you get 2 stacks of charge with light. That's right, 2. We'll be using both of these mods in the build, so you can put them wherever you'd like, but I recommended the arms to ensure you have room for the champion mod Unstoppable Fusion and another anti-barrier overload mod as well. Moving over to the chest piece. If you're doing low to mid-tier activities like raids or legend nightfalls and love spamming abilities, a great option would be to swap the Precious Scars out for Heart of Inmost Light. This exotic chest piece is great with any subclass, but really shines when used with stasis because of Tectonic Harvest and Whisper of Shards. The Heart of Inmost Light buffs the recharge rate and damage of your other 2 abilities after using an ability, so between Tectonic Harvest, Whisper of Shards, and the chest piece, you pretty much never run out of ability energy. The exotic perk also procs and buffs your other 2 abilities when throwing the Diamond Lance, which really helps because there's always little spears floating around when using Ager Scepter, and this is why I said the lance served a higher purpose. Regardless of the chest piece, the mods we're using are Sniper Damage Resistance and Concussive Dampener for that extra bit of protection. For the major mod, this is where I slotted Elemental Charge to become charged with light from picking up elemental wells. Next up, the legs. I used the artifact mod Fusion Scavenger to get bonus reserves for linear fusion rifles. And for the Charge Light mod, I used Protective Light. This mod gives a 50% damage reduction when hitting critical health while charged with light. I can't tell you how many times this mod has saved my booty hole in Grandmaster Nightfalls because I play recklessly. And for the Titan mark, the artifact mods Resonant Siphon, Particle Deconstruction, and Fire and Ice. Resonant Siphon grants 33% of your stasis ability energy back anytime you or a fire team member stuns a champion. It doesn't seem like much, but it adds up fast. Particle Deconstruction? Do I need to explain this one? Okay, moving on. And Fire and Ice drops 2 solar and stasis wells anytime you defeat a champion. The solar wells don't do much besides giving you a stack of charged light. We're more interested in the stasis wells to help keep Font of Might up as much as possible. Okay, you ready to go over how this all flows together? Good, me too. Regardless if you're in a GM or a low-level activity, the key is to let the stasis work for you. Every time you shatter stasis crystals or frozen targets, you're getting a buff from Tectonic Harvest, Whisper of Shards, or Whisper of Bonds, so you'll always have some sort of ability regen happening as long as you're shattering something. And don't forget, you gain a small percentage of ability energy every time you pick up an elemental well. The best part is, all those crystals you're shattering from abilities are creating shards from Tectonic Harvest, which also counts as elemental wells because of the well mod Elemental Shards. And because they also count as wells, it activates Font of Might for a 25% damage buff to Ager Scepter and makes you charge with light from Elemental Charge at the same time. But we're not done! Remember Whisper of Bonds? Because you're mowing down ads at the speed of light from abilities and an Ager Scepter hopped up on Font of Might, you're getting super energy fast, and I mean really fast. When you hit full super, switch the Ager Scepter to I hate everything and want to kill some shit mode, and go to work on the big baddies. If you're in a GM with Precious Scars, the Ager Scepter kills will heal you and teammates because of the perk Kintsugi. It's almost like your own little version of Devour. If you're in lower level activities with the Heart of Inmost Light, just go crazy with spamming abilities until your little heart's content. You'll never run out. You can play somewhat aggressively with this build because of Protective Light and constantly having stacks of charge with light, but just don't be an idiot like me and try to donkey punch or karate chop a champion in a GM. My friends really get tired of that. I do recommend running a higher tier on the grenade stat to help keep the Font of Might going. Super really doesn't matter too much since you get it so fast from Whisper of Bonds and Ager Scepter anyways, so I would definitely focus more on the grenades. This build has been a blast to use all week, and I'm glad PK got me to remake it. Thank you for that. I will be working on a Hunter and Warlock build next, so if you have any suggestions or something you'd like to see, let me know. If you found this video helpful, a like would be greatly appreciated, but more importantly, just be a good person to one another, and have a fantastic day. Thank you!